Greetings, creeps, and welcome to Convo Fango. Today, we are joined by someone who has given me a lot of nightmares in the last couple of weeks. Please welcome from The Last of Us, the clicker, who I was trying to think of a weird rhyme, but just bad things are coming to mind. So, the clicker himself, Sam Hoeksema.
Thanks so much. Thank you for having me. It's so exciting.
Yeah, I hope this isn't a weird thing to say, but I've been thinking about you nonstop for like the last 2 weeks now.
No, it's great. I appreciate it. I mean, probably you were thinking of my face a little bit differently. And,
Slightly.
I mean, I would like to say that Barry makes me a more beautiful human being, once everything's done. So I can only feel grateful that somebody would be, reminiscing of such an image in their mind.
Just nightmares on repeat.
Yes.
You are the main clicker in that like amazing museum attack chase scene, and that was just such a cool sequence. And it's just, we get so many cool close-ups. But let's back it up. Were you a fan of the games at all before you came on to the series?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
I love that.
I grew up with the first game, and like I didn't actually have a PlayStation when it first came out, so I watched like 2 or 3 playthroughs, because I was like, back when YouTube was really kind of popping off with people doing like full playthroughs of games, and I couldn't get enough of it, and then finally got a PlayStation myself and played it. And yeah, I mean, it's an incredible world. I remember, just my first experiences of the game being like, this would be, I mean, I just hope somebody one day gets to make this into, a movie or a show, because it just hits everything, you know what I mean, that you want from that medium as well, while still being such an incredible game, so when this came across the table, it was it still feels surreal. I mean, it still feels surreal to be a part of it, to be honest. Yeah.
That makes me so happy, because I feel like even if you had not been a fan of the game, I imagine you'd be like, I'm very excited about this. But to start out as a fan of the game and like, oh, now they're making it into a show, but they're also doing it really fucking well. And now you get to be like the clicker. Like, that's so cool.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, being a fan is almost like it's a blessing and a curse sometimes, and I feel like I feel like it's that thing where you feel that massive weight of excitement, but also responsibility, right? To do things the way that you felt connected to it, and for me in the games, the clickers, I mean, they're just so iconic, right? They're such a, like, the first time you see one, it's just like, what is this? Like, what is going on, but it still feels so rooted and grounded in the universe that that Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog created. It never feels like this fantastical thing has just like appeared out of nowhere. You're like, oh yeah, it totally makes sense. And so coming into the project, I definitely had a lot of anxiety, honestly, about just like, I want to get this right. It's got to be right, because I know what I would feel if I saw that come across and be like, it didn't quite have that same impact for me as when I played the games. But thankfully, Neil Druckmann was there at my first rehearsal. He directed that episode, obviously, as well, and he gave me a huge kind of took that weight off my shoulders, and just right away was like, don't worry about it, man. Like, do your thing, trust yourself, trust your instincts. And we got to just like play right away. So that was huge for sure. But yeah, which, it's like, that's a part of being a fan too, right? It's like, oh my gosh, it's Neil, like, but yeah, it's like I said, it's surreal for sure.
You just kind of described my job like every day, where I'm like, I'm a total nerd for this stuff, but it's also my job. But also inside, I'm like, hi, just so you know, I'm a total nerd for you.
It feels like criminal on some level. You know what I mean? Like being on set, or like what you just described, it's like you're just waiting for like somebody to scale down the window and be like, and you'd be like, yeah, you're right. Like, I guess I have to go to jail for this. Like, I don't know what, but like, there's no way that somebody should be able to like make an honest living doing this. Like, this is unreal. Yeah, it's fine, take me away.
I like how yours is very like Mission Impossible version, where people are like coming down from the ceiling. Like my version, like in my head, in my fan fiction, it's the vaudeville hook comes out and like yanks me off, and I'm like, well, it was a good run, thank you.
Yeah. And you do the like double take kind of like behind the curtain, and it pulls you back. Yeah,
with sound effects like
yes.
How much did the game inform your movements as a clicker, and then how much of it was you being like, okay, I'm an actual human person who has to now embody this, you know?
Yeah, for sure. The second game definitely informed me a lot. You know, I think there's a bit of a transition in terms of the first and second game and how they move. I think in the second game it's really fleshed out, you know, and so I like turned on OBS, like it's a recording software on my computer, and I would like just record sequences while playing the second game, you know, just like watching them when they were alert versus like just kind of in a neutral walking or whatever, you know, just try and capture them in each sort of state of being or mode, I guess. And did my best to, you know, like replicate that, but obviously, you know, you want it to feel true, you want it to feel real. And so I think there was a bit of like taking what was already established, and then for sure the world that, I mean, like Craig and Neil have created with the show is like, it just kind of cranks everything up a whole another level, right? Because it's like you're really in there. And then the prosthetic pieces of Barry Gower and his team are just unbelievable. Truly unbelievable, like legendary, amazing work that they're all doing. You know, it's like, well, it's not like I just put all that on and I walk on the set and I just kind of do my best imitation. I have to like meet them halfway, you know, and try and find, okay, this is what we see in the game, but how is this logically rooted in a human body? What causes this to happen, you know? And so I tried to study about like the actual, you know, Orpheocordyceps, and look at the behavior of carpenter ants that they typically infect, and looked at other sort of symbiotic relationships in the animal kingdom, and just watching the different ways that like animals interact with their world when they are being not totally in their own control for whatever reason or another. And yeah, just tried to really root that in my own body, in the body of a human, you know, and figure out, okay, what makes sense, what maybe do I have to tweak a little bit, you know what I mean, for it to feel right for me. But I'm going to be honest, like it's all there. And the more I kind of like learned about different medical conditions and kind of like started to try and map things all together in my little actor head, I was just like, wow, like Naughty Dog and Neil, like they it's all here already, you know, and I just get to kind of like mine for gold, you know what I mean, and like just chip away. You know, so studying different neurological conditions that affect the cerebellum, which is responsible for our coordination skills and our ability to balance and move and, you know, perform like very delicate tasks such as like putting a button, you know, through a shirt or anything like that. How different neurological conditions can affect all of that. And it's crazy. Like if you look at something like ataxia, which is a medical condition, you start to see like, oh, that's kind of like a foundation for this type of movement. And so I just kind of, this is a long answer, but it's just, this is sort of how my brain works as an actor.
I
it's
love
like, you
it
know,
though.
you take these paints and you just try and kind of blend them all together, you know, until it feels like it's rooted in something truthful and honest, you know, and something that we can look at and identify and feel like, yeah, you know, that feels plausible for a human being to do, while also, I guess, appearing kind of grotesque and painful, you know what I mean, at the same time.
Right. But that's where so much of the fear comes from, I think, also, is watching this, because I'm like, it doesn't feel so fantastical that it's like, this could never happen in a million billion years. It's like, is it fantasy? Yeah, sure. But there's also the core pieces of it are anchored in reality, and that's what makes it fucking terrifying, because you're like, there's a piece in my brain that's like, well, it's not totally impossible, and that's why it's scary.
100%, yeah. And our brains are really good at inhibiting us from doing things that would cause us pain, right? We're really good at trying to minimize that as much as possible. And that was another kind of interesting piece of being like, well, what happens if you try and turn that off as a human being, you know, because this isn't the fungus doesn't have the same concerns as a human being would, you know. I think like Nana in the first episode, you know, of her like rushing out of the house and kind of like that trip, right? It's like, that feels so kind of on the money to me, you know. It's like, how does a human behave when they don't have those inhibitors and they're just kind of like functioning on this different level that is truly something we're all capable of? It's just, we would never let our, hopefully we would not let ourselves do that, you know. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a really bad Monday morning or something, but
yeah, it's like the fungus is still trying to figure out, like, all right, how do I use this vehicle? Like, how do I steer this vehicle? Like, it's still,
100%.
the fungus has its driver's permit and not quite its license yet. And it's figuring out, like, how do I use this thing to the best of my ability?
Yeah, totally. It's working out the kinks. That's totally a great way of looking at it. And I think you see that through the stages of transition too, you know, so that by the time you get to, you know, clickers and bloaters and things like that, you start to see a bit more cohesion, right? And yeah, there's still needs some polishing probably, but you know, it's getting there. It's like reaching this new kind of coexistence, which I find, like, you know, it's scary, but it's also incredibly beautiful in a way too.
Yes.
You know,
getting
to like explore the idea of a new species, basically.
Yeah. Not a fan of that particular species, but yeah. Another thing, it's like, again, this was designed for a video game. It wasn't designed for a person to then have to actually like embody this. So like the makeup is amazing. It's terrifying, but that's not something that's really conducive to like, okay, let's put this on your head, put this on your face, and then you move around and perform in it. But Barry Gower and his team just did such an amazing job of bringing that to life in a realistic way, as you said. And then you do an amazing job of, you know, bringing that to life as a feasible moving entity. But I mean, are you not stumbling around and bumping into shit? Do you cut that out? Like how does it feel moving around in that? How do you navigate around in that?
It's you know, it took some time for sure to get
practice.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I actually found it really liberating, honestly. Originally, it's like, I think it's easy to look at stuff like prosthetics as a kind of obstacle or whatever. But with this specific kind of character and the nature of the movement already feeling quite, you know, out of sync in some way, and not, just not very harmonious in its execution. The prosthetics really kind of helped, like, just further unlock that for me. I can't see a ton when everything's on, you know, like I can still see, but it's definitely my scope is a lot more kind of tunneled. And that really helped, honestly. It made me feel like I was just in this like head case, you know, which is kind of, I imagine, what maybe the beginnings of the infection would feel like, you know, like you're starting to be withdrawn from an identity that you would relate to normally, you know. And so there's this kind of like natural jarring thing that happens once you got everything on, that just like allowed me to just go crazy, you know what I mean? And I'm not, you know, it's like sometimes you could feel like on sets you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing, you know, this is like this is ridiculous, like, but when you got everything on, it's kind of like I just got to like stay there in a way. You know what I mean? It's like, even when the camera's off, I'm still there, kind of occupying a space that feels very different and withdrawn. And so yeah, it really felt actually like the opposite of an obstacle, you know. It really felt like it catalyzed, and the more I was able to just kind of like trust that, and trust the kind of blind spots, so to speak, that these pieces gave me, it just like, it made me feel like I could fly at that point, you know.
Amazing.
Like,
I'm in my fungus case now, and
totally.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and even just the way, you know, when you're on set and you've got everything on, the way that people look at you is totally different. You know what I mean? Like the first time I met Pedro and Bella and Anna, was like that. I think we had I think we had a rehearsal before we shot with them, and I come in fully donned, and that was the first time I'd met any of them, and just like watching their reactions, it's like you can't help but like giggle inside, what I mean? And it just adds to it. It's just like it's more fodder every time, you know what I mean?
That's great.
Yeah.
What did it feel like? You guys sent us these amazing behind the scenes photos of you like getting into the prosthetics and getting into all the makeup. What did it feel like the very first time? Like you see it all put together and then you like see yourself. I mean, I guess you see yourself like this, but you see yourself as like the clicker.
Totally. It felt, I mean, surreal is a word that I know I've used a lot already, and I probably will continue to use because it feels a lot like that. It's it really is surreal. Like I remember, I mean, I was definitely a fantasy and like sci-fi kid growing up, and watching like behind the scenes, footage of Lord of the Rings, like the actors being put in like Urukai prosthetics and makeup, and being like, wow, that must be so crazy. Like, I wonder what that's like, or like Voldemort or like any of these things, and then when you're in the chair, it's like, oh, it's like, yeah, it's just, it's amazing. It really is amazing. I felt like a kid in a candy store, and getting to watch Barry and his team, I mean, like they're absolute legends, right? It's amazing just to watch them work, so yeah, I mean, I was just blown away. I was totally blown away. And I think when we did a makeup test and Neil came in and to kind of give a final, thumbs up, and I think he was probably like crying a little bit,
Yeah.
and I think that's how it felt for all of us, like truly, it's just like, yeah, words can't really describe it. It's it's just like this thing with, I think that's what's so special about it being a game previously. It's like many of us have had our own experience with the game, and then coming and bringing all of this to life. It's like we're having this new experience with it that we're getting to share with each other on set, and now with the audience, of being like, this thing that we all kind of like kept in here and felt so like excited about, now we're like in the room with each other, doing it and like seeing it come to life. It's just it's really an indescribable thing for me.
That's wonderful. I love that so much. And the reception has been amazing. I mean, I feel like historically video game adaptations, like that's a brave territory to tread into, because fans will rip that shit apart and they have no qualms about it. But this is one of the first times I've seen people, fans of the game and people who were not fans of the game and just new to the series, coming to this franchise and just losing their fucking minds. Like TikTok is filled with like look at the side by side, like the shot recreation here is crazy. And then like people who have never played the game that are just like amazing and getting turned on to the game because of that. And it's like so rare that you see that happen, where like camps of fans and new fans coming together and just like loving the shit out of something. So you guys managed to like really capture lightning in the bottle on this one, because I'm like, whoa, this is this is very positive stuff people are saying. I'm shocked, like
totally.
But so well deserved though. So congratulations to you guys for that.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, I think Craig will say like nobody's a bigger fan of the game than him. And I think, he definitely, I think he feels, if I'm saying that I feel the responsibility and the weight of my, just getting my thing right, you can rest assured, I'm sure that for Craig, it's, it's enormous, I'm sure. And the responsibility he probably felt to make it feel, like the original game lovers can be like, boom, that's it, and then new audiences too can like find just this beautifully touching human story, right, that I think we can all uncomfortably relate to, right?
Yes. How do you feel about mushrooms? I guess the culinary kind, both before and after like this series. I mean, you were a fan of the game also, but also I wonder if like filming this, like have your feelings altered on fungus and mushrooms in general, or are you just even?
I tell people that when I started, I liked, everybody in Hollywood, when they're doing these like superhero movies. They've got amazing diets and like workout routines. And I'm like, yeah, I just did like an all fungal diet for 6 months, you know. And then if I felt like I needed water, I'd just go stand outside and like photosynthesize. Just like eating lichen off the trees. No, I love mushrooms, actually. I'm a huge fan of mushrooms. And the show probably made me love them even more. But also like now I look at them a little differently, if that makes sense too.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm like, you know, that one looks beautiful, but I don't know if I actually want to eat it right now.
I've been giving them a little bit of a side eye. I don't know if I've had a mushroom in the last few weeks. I'm just, I don't know.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, you know, I know like Barry Gower, he's not the biggest fan of mushrooms of the culinary sort. And I kept joking with him about like, oh, I'm going to buy you like this beautiful mushroom cookbook and like we can make omelets to get mushroom omelets together and stuff. It's like just funny the way that life works, you know?
Yeah. A real immersive experience would be to just have like an all mushroom dinner, like a 4 or 5 courses, all mushroom based while you're watching like a new episode or something.
100%. You actually just like you saying that made me think I should pitch to Craig, like, you know, maybe next year for the culinary truck, y'all should get like just only like mushroom menu on set. Just like, oh my gosh, can you believe it?
Everyone was very, very hungry that day. Everyone's like, I'm good, but thank you.
Well, what are we gonna do with all these portobellos, guys? Come on, like, hello.
Take them and burn them.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of like fun, interesting kind of stories you can share with us from set? Non-spoilery stuff that you're allowed to share?
Yeah, it's always tricky. I mean, something that relates to just like what you were bringing up earlier, you know, with the prosthetic pieces and stuff, something that I just like hold very dear to my heart is because I had, you know, not the easiest time seeing sometimes. And some of our shoots were night shoots. And so, you know, you're like already in the dark. And then I would have to like wear a privacy umbrella to make sure that, you know, if we were shooting outside, there were like looky-loos or anybody like that couldn't like take a photo or anything. I'm like kind of totally in darkness whenever I'm going to set. And so usually like an AD would have to like physically hold my hand and just like walk me to the set. You know, I always just felt like I was just like, you're doing, you know, they're all like in their 20s or 30s or whatever, and I'd just be like, you know, be patient. This is what, you know, you're gonna do for your parents one day. You know, just treat me like I'm your, you know, you're a geriatric like 90-year-old father that you just have to like walk to the bathroom and like walk to lunch and stuff. Yeah, I hold that very dear to me. It's a funny thing to have to be like led around like that, and I'm sure it looked very silly for
where's my escort, please?
Yeah,
is that why they call you Gramps on set? It makes sense now.
100%. Yeah, I just walk outside and the hand is like waiting. Don't even have to say anything. Just like, who's gonna take it this time? Yes. Yeah.
Whose turn is it? Whose turn is it?
Yes, a lot of that. A lot of I can't really like. I've got dentures and stuff too, so I can't like snack during set, which I'm a bit of a snacker, to be honest. There's a lot of that, a lot of hand holding, a lot of like 80s having to bring me like smoothies with a straw. So they were like very much my lifeline. Very grateful to them.
Shout out to the
shout outs to the 80s. Really, really awesome.
That really is kind of like, I guess, a preview of like maybe what it'll feel like. And, you know, when you get close to like 100 years old, you're like, oh, this is just like back in my days on the Last of Us set.
100%. Yeah. It took a lot. I was like, yep, this is really that level of humility is coming through here for sure. Or I feel like I just can't do anything myself and I need everybody to help me. I'm going to be so ready for that stage. I'm like, all right, don't worry. I've got this under control.
Here's my hand, bring my smoothie.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Also, you said privacy umbrella. My dentures. I needed a
Yeah,
little
blend it a
smooth. This
couple more
smoothie is not
times.
nearly smooth enough.
Yes.
You said privacy umbrella, and I'm just picturing you in like a little, like the Pope bubble, but it's like
Yes.
but it's covered with like a cloth or something. For
Totally.
season 2, get a clicker bubble for this man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can you imagine?
That'd
Little
be so good.
clicker mobile or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I won't name names, but I will say that I had a full-grown adult confess to me that they were afraid that there was maybe a clicker like hiding in the bushes in the wee hours of the morning after watching that museum episode. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
I was laughing, but I was also like, I get it. So I can't make fun of you too much because I don't want to go like walk my dog after watching an episode. Like I'm a little bit too scared to.
Totally, totally. Just tell, you can tell them from me, you'll always hear the sound first.
Okay.
You know. Yeah. You
Pro
only have
tip.
to be alert if you hear the sound, then okay, you know.
Then you need to shit your
foot.
pants and run, but
Yes,
otherwise you're
totally.
fine. It's
Or
good.
you can try, you know, if you feel like maybe you've got that guttural voice somewhere in there, you can try communicating, and maybe you'll have, you know, a blossoming new friendship.
Okay, can I hear your best clicker impression?
Oh my gosh. I could do it. I'm a little, you have to close your eyes. You have to close your eyes.
Okay.
Okay.
I have to open my eyes because I don't like it.
That's all I'll do.
That was good. All right.
It's fun. It's a lot. I get very shy doing it now, but when you're like, what do you, again, that was like part of the joy of having all the pieces on. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I can't see anybody's reaction anyway. I'm going in all the way. Like,
it's freeing putting on a costume, like putting on like a Halloween costume or even like a wig or something. You know what I mean? You're like, I'm transformed. Like I had like mermaid hair and suddenly I'm like a different person.
totally.
It's like,
Yeah, 100%.
I get it. So I'll try on your clicker outfit and I'll see like the best sound that I can make. We'll see.
Please do. Halloween's not too far away. I mean, you can take a few months to prep and I find it's easier on an inhale than an exhale. That's my pro tip.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna work on that.
It's almost like if you've heard like if you like screamo music or whatever, it's kind of like that almost, you know.
That is how I do my screamo screams.
Boom, there you go. Yes. Channel your like inner hardcore 16-year-old kid just like throwing down at the show. You're in
that never went away. I still am that kid.
Awesome,
I didn't grow out of it. It's not a phase, Mom.
You'll do fine. You'll nail it.
Amazing. This was so much fun. Do you have anything else that you want to share with us before we go? Anything I didn't ask you about that you're like, fuck, why didn't you ask me this?
No, just like, again, I mean, it's just so amazing to see the reactions from people and you know, I mean, I can only speak for myself, obviously, but just so much love for everybody that's tuning in and watching the show and going on this ride with us. It's, you know, from the bottom of my heart, it's an absolute dream and joy and truly an honor to be able to share it with everyone. So, you know, a big thank you to everybody that's coming on the ride with us.
And from all of us, I will speak collectively for everyone watching.
Please do.
Thank you. It's been an absolute fucking nightmare. And thank you for that.
My pleasure. My pleasure.